Won't you take a breath with me? Breathe in and breathe out. I want to begin today by naming something that is obvious but also important, which is that events in the news these past weeks have struck deep emotional chords, and they have struck deep emotional chords with women in particular. And I am up here as a guy talking at the pulpit today, at a time when we're suffering perhaps from an excess of guys talking about things, particularly things that are outside the sphere of their experience. I deliberately chose readings today written by women, but nonetheless, it is a guy choosing those readings, and I recognize that that is not ideal. So I want to say I welcome dialogue and feedback always. I expect disagreement and difference of opinion, but also if something that I say today is not helpful, if it is hurtful, or if you feel that I have stepped out of my lane, as they say, I invite you to let me know. I also want to say that women are not monolithic. I do not presume to speak for women. No woman can speak for all other women, and there's not one right way that women should be feeling or thinking right now. So if you're a woman and you do not see yourself reflected in this service or in the readings, that is not intended to invalidate your experience. Let me continue to name the obvious. Many women right now are angry. Angrier than I have ever been in my life is a phrase that I am reading and hearing frequently. Rage is a word that I am reading and hearing a lot. Smash, break, and burn are words I am reading a lot, as in smash the patriarchy and burn it down. Here's another thing about anger. Regardless of what you think of Justice Kavanaugh's performance in the confirmation hearings, I feel confident in saying that no woman could display the level of anger that he displayed in a professional setting and survive with her professional reputation intact. Women are not allowed to be angry like that, at least not in public. They are taught from a very young age to quash their anger down, to defer, to accommodate, and women learn that in a professional setting, anger will be characterized as shrillness, as bossiness, as coldness or unlikability. Displays of emotion will be translated into over-emotion or even hysteria. Most women do not allow themselves displays of anger such as shown by Judge Kavanaugh because the cost is too high. But I am also seeing many women say they are done with this idea that they are not allowed to be angry. Smash, break, burn. I think it is difficult for some men to understand the depths of women's anger around the Kavanaugh hearings because it is difficult for men in general to understand that sexual harassment or sexual assault or just plain disrespect of their person and their body isn't a single event that happens to some women some of the time. It is the background noise of women's lives. It is catcalls. It is the guy on the bus who won't leave you alone to read your book. It is an anonymous person groping you at a club and then walking away. It is inappropriate staring from your coworker or your boss or your professor or the guy at the drive-thru who's handing you a cup of coffee. It is being stalked by an ex with no recourse. It is being harassed and propositioned in your private messages. It is inappropriate text messages. It is expressing an opinion as a woman on the internet and receiving death threats and threats of sexual violence in return. This is not something that most men experience. And so it is hard for men to understand how that could be just another day in your life. Just another day in your life. Now, I bring this up not to center men, not to bring the discussion back to, well, what do men think about all of these things? I bring this up because we've heard a lot of nonsense in the last few weeks about how sexual assault is normal behavior for teenage boys and young men. Just like in 2016, we heard a lot of nonsense about locker room talk. And it is just that. It is nonsense. It's unacceptable. Young boys and men of all ages are perfectly capable of understanding and practicing consent and demonstrating respect for women's choices and women's boundaries. And men have a role to play in holding other men accountable and in educating young boys and young men by their words and by their examples. And to be clear, these are basic expectations for all genders, right? It is not just women who experience sexual assault, and all people need to be held accountable. But our culture in particular normalizes male aggression towards women and normalizes male disrespect of female autonomy, and we who identify as men need to name that and get real clear about our role in demanding that this culture change. A few days ago, activist Danielle Moscato tweeted out a simple question to women as sort of a thought experiment. And she got a lot of answers to her question. So many women answered that the tweet went viral, and the national press picked up this story. It was in ABC News, New York Daily News, BBC. And I suspect that the answers that she got to her question will resonate with women in this room. They may surprise men. The question itself may surprise men. It may sting a little. Her request to men in her Twitter feed when she posed this question was, "Men, please read and just listen. Read and just listen." So as I read this, I also ask men in the room to listen. If the question makes you uncomfortable, please allow yourself to sit with the discomfort. So this was the question that Danielle Moscato posed to women. What would you do if men had a 9 p.m. curfew? What would you do if men had a 9 p.m. curfew? And this is a small sampling of the replies. I'd go to the grocery store and not have to figure out the best way to hold my keys as a weapon. I'd go to a movie at night. I'd not worry about if I parked close enough to be safe. I'd lay in a park and look at the stars. I would go run at night, go wash my car, get gas in a sports bra, and I wouldn't think about how short my workout shorts were. I would make eye contact with everyone and smile because I wouldn't be afraid of sending the wrong invitation. I hope this doesn't sound too bonkers, but I would literally dance and sing in the street. I would be my own bleeping musical. I would go to a sports bar and watch late baseball games without men asking, "So do you even know who that is? Do you know the rules? Wow, a girl who watches baseball." I'd go for a walk or run at night. OMG, put gas in my car instead of waiting until the next day for daylight, carry my keys in my purse instead of between my fingers, leave my windows rolled down when I get to a stoplight, so many things. I'd go running with headphones in. I'd take public transportation without being on high alert. Solo camping, I would run on the forest trails. Run the lake trails at night and cool down lakeside looking at the night sky and listening to the night sounds. Heaven. I'd wear whatever shoes made me feel good instead of planning for escape. I would like to lay on the sand and look at the stars. Basically, I would exist in the public sphere without fear. So let's sit with that for a minute. And please, let's take a breath. And let it out. This is the lived experience that underlies the pain and the hurt and the frustration and the anger that so many women have been experiencing these past few weeks. Our religious principles as Unitarian Universalists call us to listen to one another, to be curious about one another's stories, to honor the living testimony of one another's experiences. This is a house where people can be heard. This is a house where women are believed. So I ask that here in this space today we make room in our hearts that these voices can be heard and believed. I would like to lay on the sand, she said, and look at the stars. Let us breathe together. I would like to lay on the sand, she said, and look at the stars. Let us breathe together. I would like to lay on the sand, she said, and look at the stars. And let us breathe together. We will be having 2 listening circles this coming week. Tuesday evening from 5 to 7 p.m., I will hold a listening circle that is open to anyone here in the cottage library. Thursday morning, Suzanne will hold a listening circle that is a woman-only space from 10 a.m. to noon, also in the cottage library. That is for any woman-identified person, cisgender or transgender. These will be drop-in spaces, so you do not need to sign up, come on time, or stay for the whole thing. We will just be holding the space open. So people may sit in silence together, sing together, share what is ever on their hearts, knowing that someone will be there to listen and that you will be heard and believed. So yesterday, the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, she wrote an article in response to the Kavanaugh hearings, the confirmation, and I'd like to share from it at length because it not only names women's anger and the source of women's anger, but it addresses the question of what to do with so much anger. And that is a real question that women have been asking. What do I do with all of this anger I am feeling? And the Reverend Frederick Gray writes, "Today, as the Senate confirmed Brett Kavanaugh's appointment to the Supreme Court, the image most clear in my spirit is the burning bush. The burning bush was the form God took to speak to Moses, to tell him that God had heard the suffering cries of the people and asked Moses to lead them to freedom. The image at the heart of this story is a bush on fire, yet not consumed." She continues, "If you are angry, if you are not okay right now, that is okay. I am angry and I don't feel okay." She says, "Years ago, the organizer, Ernesto Cortez Jr., introduced me to the concept of cold anger. He said that anger is the legitimate response to the pain of having your body, your values, your humanity, your family, and your dignity violated, dismissed, or denied. She says, I heard these words many years ago and they have stayed with me. Anger is a legitimate response." Reverend Frederick Gray continues, "I needed to hear that then. I need to hear it now. Anger is not an emotion we women are taught to have or value. Instead, we are taught to swallow it or push it aside, and I am done with that. We need our anger," she says. "Yet we also need to know how to use our anger so that it does not consume or destroy. Anger can become destructive, turn inward and swallowed. It can consume us with shame, self-destruction, and despair. Turned outward, it can be explosive and violent. But when we understand the concept of cold anger, an anger that burns without consuming, we understand that anger can be the fire and the energy for action, for organizing, for creating justice." She continues, "The image of the burning bush is in my heart today. It is an image of an embodied Spirit of God that burns with a fire for the cries of the people, yet does not consume the life of the bush. It gives light and beauty and power without consuming, and it calls us to bring that force to the work of justice." And Reverend Susan Frederick Gray concludes, "If you are angry, if you are heartbroken, if you are not okay today, it's okay. I am with you. I feel it all too. And I am going to use that energy to strengthen my commitment to organizing for justice." I shared that article in case that image of the burning bush, that anger can be a fire that burns but does not consume, would resonate with some. Our UU principles call us to be a justice-making people, to use our energy and our passion to bring more love and freedom and possibility into the world for all people. Anger certainly contains within it energy and passion. Many people here are deeply committed to the work of making the world a better place in many ways, large and small. Maybe something in current events is calling you to engage in the world with deeper passion and purpose. Whether that be activism or education, speaking one's truth with more clarity or to a different audience, creating art in a different way, launching a project that has been delayed or denied, and yes, even mobilizing people in the streets. This may be a time for the anger that is born of love to fuel our lives to deeper meaning and purpose. But I also want to hold up that this article may not resonate, and it may even feel like a burden. Like, there is no space in my life for causes and mobilizing right now. Or I'm not a cause and mobilize kind of person. Or I'm just not feeling the things that other people are feeling. That is not where I am at. And so I hasten to say that that is okay. That is why Unitarian Universalism is lived out in community. Because it takes all kinds, because everyone is at a different place in their lives, and because we see things differently and we respond differently, and that is a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing. If you came to church today with a light and peaceful heart, then we are grateful that you are here. And may your light shine on those around you as a blessing. And if you are angry, if you are feeling smash, break, burn, but also you are at the limit of what you can handle, and what you need is rest and support, then this is a time to find rest and support. And I hope you find some of that here in this community. And if you are hurting, if you are bruised and battered from this week, then I hope you find peace and healing. Wherever we are at, whatever we are thinking or feeling, whatever the focus of our attention, I do ask that as a religious community, as a community of care, we recognize that some in our community are hurting, and they're hurting deeply. This is a time to be gentle with one another. This is a time for extra kindness and compassion. This is a time to breathe deeply together, to breathe in peace and breathe out love. This is a time for listening. I want to close today with a short prayer by the Reverend Gretchen Haley, which I have adapted to be a meditation. I invite you to let your bodies get comfortable in your seats. You may want to place your feet on the ground if that helps you feel your rootedness to the earth. I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. And breathe with me. Let's breathe in and breathe out. Let's tend this moment to this space, here in the hollows of our chest, the in and out of our breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Let's begin in our bodies in this moment, in this letting go and taking in. Breathe in, breathe out. In this silence, let's find here again the beating of our own hearts, the steady pulse that has carried us this far, the dreams our lives represent, the call of those who kept getting out of bed so that we could be here today. Breathe in and breathe out. Finding the beat that calls to us even now, behind the noise of grief or fear or overwhelm. Already we are beloved. Already we are enough. Breathe in. Breathe out. And these bodies are gifts. This life is a gift. This earth is a gift. And we are here only to listen, breathing in and breathing out, letting it pull on our hearts with this steady, healing hope. Breathe in and breathe out. Beloved, you are already enough. Pass it on. You may open your eyes. Our closing hymn today is a hymn of gratitude for the earth. There is beauty and vitality all around us, and it too can be a source of healing and strength. As we take our leave of this space today, let us do so knowing that this earth is a gift, this life is a gift, these bodies are gifts, and we are enough. Blessed be, and amen.